There was a press conference held today at City Hall in which I attended, and a member from administration, along with the City of Cincinnati and the police chief and a couple other folks, to announce this wonderful partnership. Also worth noting, on January 27th, there was another very nice community conversation held at Mount Airy School that dealt with the third grade reading guarantee. And that will, that community conversation will continue again, and I believe our next conversation will deal with high school graduation requirements. And so lots of great public engagement that we will continue.
And Madam Chair, I would like to apologize for missing that meeting. I have not gotten into PPE mode, but I will be at the next one. Thank you.
We really missed you and hope to see you soon.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do board members have any questions about the Committee of the Whole report written February 4th, 2015? Okay, we need a voice vote to accept the committee reports as written, with the one friendly amendment to the attendees at the Policy Committee. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Great. We need a voice. Oh, excuse me. Tonight's presentations. First, we are going to start off with a grassroots fundraising efforts for the trip to Nuuk Taipei City. So we have Julia Indelicio, our social studies curriculum director, here with a team. And I'll turn it over to you guys.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks again for welcoming us back again to talk about our sister city partnership with New Taipei City. We are very excited to enter into our second year of reciprocal relationships and visits with our friends in New Taipei City. As you might recall, last June, the superintendent went over to New Taipei City with 30 students from the greater Cincinnati area, including 18 of our finest in CPS. And we are just about at that place again to head over to New Taipei City. I'm very excited this year. I'm going to get to go over and accompany many of our students to head to New Taipei City and continue forging that relationship. Also with us tonight, and so that's a 5-year, just a gentle reminder, that's a 5-year relationship. We had students here, as you might recall, in November who were visiting with us and attending several of our high schools, and now it's our turn to return and our time to return. And so with us today, I'm excited to present to you Mr. Craig Rush, who is going to be heading over to New Taipei City in June as well, and he will introduce to you several of his students and maybe potentially some other kids who may go in the future at some point.
Okay, thanks for this opportunity to talk. It's awesome to be here. We wanted to talk a little bit about our opportunity with the New Taipei City. This is a picture which is really cool, an opportunity where our students were able to welcome the New Taipei delegation in November. What's interesting about passports today is that in America, only 30% of Americans own a passport, whereas compared to UK and to Canada, it's much higher. Only 800,000 students, or nearly 800,000 students, have visited from the U.S. or to the U.S., while 280,000 students from the United States have gone abroad. So in other words, we don't have as many people from our country traveling abroad. What's neat about this student exchange program is that it can build relationships. And in fact, an Assistant Secretary of State said that these relationships that our students are able to forge allows us to solve global challenges. And ambassadors, interestingly enough, rank student exchange programs as one of the most powerful catalysts for long-term political change and mutual understanding. Taiwan is an awesome country that we're really excited to go to this coming summer, an island off the coast of China. One of the things that student ambassadors, that our students are going to be able to do, is to increase their chance to land a job. So one of the things our district is really working on is trying to get our students ready for job and career readiness. It also forms stronger people-to-people connections, a greater global competency, cultural awareness, and awesome leadership opportunities. The students that are going to talk have been doing a great job about being leaders. We are from Withrow High School, but there are several high schools that are involved. Walnut Hills, SCPA, Gamble, Clark, Woodward, Hughes, Aiken, and Data have all been involved either this year or in the past. Our awesome students include Raven Richardson, Tamia Saunders, Jasmine Pennington, and Amal Osman. You're going to get to meet them in just a minute. This is a great picture of Chung Ling. He came to our classroom and taught our students about what Taiwan was all about. So this neat exchange program we hope to reciprocate coming up in June, where we go and teach a little bit about Cincinnati. We were able to learn things like Taiwanese dancing. Some of the students were able to go out and shop in America, so it was neat. And the student that we hosted, he really was into Reds baseball. So a really cool official allowed us to get all the way down to the, just about down to the first row, and he got to see all about the Reds. He was really excited about that. An awesome thing that happened too was there was a snow day during that time, and he just absolutely loved going sled riding, so it was neat. These are some of the kids that are here today, and their great relationship with Jack. They were so wonderful to him. Took him around, they took care of him, they took him to lunch, they took him to classes, and I'm really proud of the opportunities that they gave. And here are some of the other students who were able to come here this November. This was us at the airport, and the neat thing is the great relationships that the kids forged in this short amount of time. Some of the neat relationships include the fact that the students are continuing to Facebook and Skype with Jack, and ever since November, the students in front of you today have been meeting to try to get this dream a reality. So we're going to hear from them now, and please welcome them.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Welcome.
My name is Raven Richardson. I'm a junior at Withrow University High School.
Hello everyone, my name is Amal Osman and I am currently attending Withrow and I'm a junior and I live in Mount Washington.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Pennington. I am also a junior at Withrow High School and I live in North Avondale.
Hello, I'm Tamia Saunders. I'm a junior at Withrow High School and I live in Avondale.
Good evening. So my name is Jasmine Pennington. I'm 16 years old. My grade point average is a 4.2. Some things that I'm involved in after school is the academic quiz team, the bowling team. I volunteer for the Red Cross and the National Honor Society. I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses.
Your interests include?
Oh, I'm so sorry. My interests include playing guitar and piano, like music is my thing, and video editing. My favorite quote is, people who don't travel cannot have a global view. All they see is what's in front of them. Those people cannot accept anything new because all they know is where they live, by Michael Yon.
Good job, Jasmine.
Oh, and this is, since I like music, I planned on writing a song like every day while I was in Taiwan. While I'm in Taiwan, I was planning on writing a journal, and I was going to keep track of everything, and I was going to write a song because that's, you know, what I do. And at the end, I'm going to share it with people. Like, I'm going to come back and share it with my friends so they can experience what I experienced. And right here, you can see is my video is actually on YouTube of a song that I did a long time ago. So, yes.
Awesome.
Hello again. I'm Raven Richardson. I'm 16 years old. I have a GPA of 4.3. I am on the Withrow Dynasty dance team. I love to cook and act. I want to go to Taiwan because I feel like it'll be a great experience for me and change my life forever. I love to make, Mr. Reynolds will pass around some of my cookies that I baked. I love to make cookies, make meatloaf. I just love to cook. I want to be a chef as well.
Love to eat, so this is working out great.
That's great. I got you.
Hello, my name is Amal Osman and I am 17 with a GPA of 4.0. I am involved in Withrow's track and field team. I'm also involved in soccer and I'm new captain, just saying. I'm involved in the National Honor Society and also the academic quiz team. My interests are reading, traveling, cooking, writing, hiking, and using the social network. I want to go to Taiwan because going to Taiwan will be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. It's an opportunity to learn and grow about someone else's culture. And my favorite quote is, certainly, travel is more than seeing of sights. It is a change that goes on deep and permanent in the ideas of living.
Nice.
And those are just a few of my medals. And I brought them with me, and I'm wearing my favorite ones from regionals when we came in first place, and I was just so proud. Thank you.
Congrats.
Okay, hello. I'm Tamia Saunders again. I'm 17, and my current GPA right now is 4.59. I really love to draw. I feel like it's not just a hobby, it's more like a muscle to me because I do it every day when I get the chance after I do my homework, of course. And I want to go to Taiwan because I believe that experiencing different cultures is very essential and to eliminate stereotypes. So I believe this would be a great experience for me as well as help me with my artwork. Thank you. Oh, I forgot about that. Okay, here goes. I'm showing you some of my artwork anyways. Here is one of the pieces I did back in the summer when I was working for Artworks. Are any of you guys familiar with Artworks?
Yeah. Yes.
I was really excited. It was my first year working with Artworks. So as a piece, I decided to draw more realistically than I normally do. And it turned out really great. I was really excited. It took me a couple days, but it was great.
Well done. Oh, wow.
This drawing on the, oh, y'all can see it on the TV? That's cool. This drawing on the left is when in 2013 I was experimenting with drawing backgrounds. It took me 12 hours actually, but it turned out great. I'm a Scorpio, by the way.
Okay.
On the right is a picture of one of my favorite characters, anime characters. Her name is Nana, and that means 7 from the Japanese language into English. And she basically relates to my personality in every single way. She don't take anything from nobody, and she likes to just chase after what she believes in instead of just sitting there waiting for things to come. So I was really excited about that.
Awesome.
This is what I did for a Christmas contest last year. It took me, like, I spent my whole Christmas break during school doing this, and I was mad because I had to go back and do homework again. But it turned out pretty great. It took me a couple days. I've never used a lot of colors before. It turned out really great, and I was really excited. I ain't win the contest, but the effort was really happy the way it turned out. So, yeah, thank you.
Impressive.
Okay, as I said before, I was going to do my song, which is how, you know, it can contribute to society, like when I come back and share with other people. And another thing, when Jack came, which is Jack, our friend from Taiwan, he introduced me to a bunch of Taiwanese music that was very interesting because it was very different from the music that I listen to. And I mean, I'd love to get to know, you know, more about the music in Taiwan. So.
I hope that if I go, that I will get to go to one of the schools that has plays so I can see their different types of acting and go to different types of food restaurants so I can be a better chef, basically, as I want to be.
You're pretty good as is. These cookies are amazing.
Thank you.
Well, if I go, since me and Jack just have sports, like we both love sports, but I want to go so I can just see their sports, like what they do for fun and just the way they live.
All right.
Basically my main reason I want to go is to collect reference material for my artwork and also draw a lot of pictures while I'm there. Because when Jack left, I drew him a picture, a good bad picture, and he really loved it, so I was really excited about that. And I like to draw for people because I like how their face light up when they get that picture that I took so much time to draw. So basically, that's basically where I want to go. Just collect reference material and also experience the different culture because it's different. I mean, it's just different. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Okay, so these young ladies have been pretty remarkable in their efforts so far, and not only have they explained to you why they want to travel over, but these are some things that they've done so far. Every week since November, they've been meeting with Mr. Rush after school and brainstorming and thinking and challenging each other about how could they raise this seemingly monumental amount of money to go overseas. They've also met with their principal and with the alumni. They've presented to Withrow staff. They've presented here at the central office staff and at the Withrow Tech Fair. I know later this week they're going to present to CFT. They've done bake sales, as you can see. They should raise some good money from their bake sales. And lastly, they've been really creative in creating a GoFundMe site. And I also want to give a hats off to Shannon Reynolds. I'm not sure where Shannon went to. But Shannon, he has been working with us on this project as well and has really helped us launch the GoFundMe. So to date, they have about $1,500 that they've raised on the GoFundMe site. So it's a good start, but it won't get them all the way there. Oh, thank you. Thanks. So they're also going to do out-of-uniform passes at school. Mr. Daniels has talked with them about the availability of kids being out of uniform to raise money for that. They're trying to do a basketball game, a talent show. They're going to go to Hyde Park Kroger and hold a jar and hope that people will help them that way too. So these kids are really willing to give up their own time and their efforts to raise money on their own. You can see here are the requirements to get to Taiwan. They need a passport, which, do any of you have passports already? No. Okay, so that's an additional fund. They have to get a physical. There's an essay application, which they've all done. We're going to do some teaching about Taiwanese culture this spring, starting next month, on Saturdays next month. Letters of recommendation, and then it's about $2,800 per applicant. So that doesn't include their spending money or their passport. So we tell the kids it's probably about a $3,100, $3,200 venture by the time it's all together. So that's a lot of money when you're selling cookies. So I know when they get back, they've talked a lot about wanting to share with the school community, to talk with the alumni, to bring that experience back to all of you, to the city of Cincinnati, and what they've learned. You've heard them talk about how they want to draw and sing and write and cook like what they've learned overseas. So I think we have really a nice foundation of good kids who want to travel abroad and share the goodness of what's happening in Cincinnati Public Schools across the globe. So there's a lot to see, and Mary could go on and telling you about some of the really neat things that the superintendent got to experience overseas. But they definitely want to see Jack and the other students that were there. There's night markets, Taipei 101, so there's lots to see. But one of the things they want to make sure that we see going over is a diverse CPS student ambassador pool. So it's important that students, whether they're from a family that can afford to send them over, a family that travels, or a family that everybody owns passports or not, we want to make sure that that's what represents Cincinnati Public. So we are trying as a CPS delegation to make sure that we represent all socioeconomic groups in CPS. And so certainly there are kids that are on board whose parents can fully fund them, but these kids don't happen to be those students. And so we're working really hard to ensure that they can get a plane ticket as well. So they've been working really hard, and I commend them on that. They are currently in the process of applying for passports in the hopes that they'll have a plane ticket with their name on it come June. So they are in the process of that, going to use some of the GoFundMe dollars that have been donated so far, which some people in this room have donated. So we appreciate that, including Mr. Rush, who has helped them with that. So we thank you. I thank you on behalf of the students and Craig and Shannon for letting us have a little bit of time to kind of talk about and see the faces of students who are going to represent you abroad. I'm quite sure that you join me in thinking how proud we are to have these kids representing Cincinnati Public. Thank you.
All right, don't go too far. We're going to have questions and comments for you, board members. Mr. Nelms?
Yeah, first of all, ladies, thanks for coming. And those 4.2s and 4.59s, do y'all have time to play? That's the main thing. And now, I do want to ask you two questions, and then I'm going to give you an idea to consider for your fundraising. What's the primary language that they speak in Taipei, and what are your planned travel dates? And then I'll give you the fundraising idea.
Okay, so the language that they speak there is Mandarin Chinese, but they do encourage us to speak English. The majority of people in Taiwan speak English. The travel dates, we plan on traveling from, I believe, June 9th through June 22nd. Yes.
Okay, do you want the idea now? Okay, here's what I would suggest that you do. Come up with a sponsor letter. Identify 30 people that you know that will sponsor you personally, and ask them for $25. You might get about half of that, but at least it's a start. And then I want to personally pledge $25 to each and every one of you. So, Julie, man, you worked together at Hughes, didn't we not? So if you would get in touch with me, give me something in writing, and I'll make sure that I'll get $25 toward their fundraising goal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They actually have a letter here to share with each one of you. They have a GoFundMe site, so it's very, very easy.
Thank you.
I've never done GoFundMe before, and I just downloaded the app. How do I find you? Is that going to be on the instructions here? Okay. Okay, I'm new to this, but I'm true to it as well. So.
And for
You can count
anyone
on my
else who would
support.
like a paper, we will set them out on a table. So.
And one other initiative, you guys didn't mention, but we're allowed to wear blue jeans here at the district office if we donate to the fund. So I wore blue jeans last Friday, gave my $5, so I'm in there. And I just want to say that I know for me, my life changed when I was able to make a trip to Asia just a couple years ago. And so all the things that were said in the PowerPoint presentation about expanding your mind and how much international travel does for a person, I get it 100%. So you can count on my support, and I'll definitely be sharing this with my networks to make sure that we get you guys across the world. Anybody else?
I want to congratulate you all on your accomplishments that probably just seem like day-to-day to you. The cooking is awesome, the sports is awesome, the drawing, the music, all awesome. Your GPAs are awesome. You guys are like rock stars. So I'm going to match Mr. Nams and make sure that I go to the GoFundMe app and pledge my support to you guys. I'm really excited for you. And so, you know, sometimes we may not really think about it, but, you know, when we allow our minds to expand and really deal with folks from different and diverse backgrounds, it really helps us grow as individuals. So I'm really excited for what you guys are going to see and how it is going to change your life. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hoffman.
Yeah, so I'm going to also go to the GoFundMe site. So I think you just got quite a few donations just from coming out here tonight. But you all are very compelling. So if we go to this GoFundMe site, are there quotes from you all, pictures from you all? We can link to tonight's video. I'm thinking one of you said that you like social media. Okay, all of that is on there? Okay. Fantastic. So yeah, and I think we can also, well, I can't speak for anyone else, but I can definitely spread the word via social media as well. So I think, like you all have pointed out, it's just so important to your own personal growth, but the best way to break down stereotypes is to meet actual people from different cultures. And so that is just so important for your growth. And then you all are obviously leaders today, and you're going to be future leaders. And so to have that experience is huge, and bringing that back to our city. So we're excited to hear more.
All right, well, let's give a round of applause for these ladies. Keep up the good work.
Yeah. Make a note to do it tonight.
I'd be happy to. The URL is http://gofundme.com/HTUEE0.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm sure we'll get this posted maybe in the playback of this. We can have it shown on the screen. So for folks that watch the board meetings, that would be awesome.
Superintendent, are you planning on traveling with them again this year? Mary, are you planning on traveling again this year?
No, I am not, but we are looking for possibly a board member or someone else to go to represent the delegation this year.
I nominate Mr. Nels.
First prayer, and we'll talk about it.
All right.
All right. Next item on the agenda, the board will now have a discussion and presentation on quality seats. And this will be a recurring agenda item for the board this year until we make plenty of headway. Not sure how long it'll last, but every month we will be addressing this topic. And to help us in this conversation, we have our policy advisor and board fellow, Mr. Joe Moorman. So Joe, if you want to come on down.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Excited to be here and to get this conversation kicked off and continuing. So to start us off, I want to review the agenda for this discussion. We have 4 main topics that are all timed out. We're going to be very efficient in our discussion, hopefully. Part 1 is actually taking a look at the big picture and the core outcomes of what we are aiming to do with this initiative. So I'll share my proposal based on everything I've learned and the discussions I've had for what those core outcomes could be for the board. We'll have a bit of a discussion and some feedback around that. I'll then hand it over to the superintendent to share a bit more about the history and context around the district's previous efforts to expand quality seats, so we can continue to deepen our collective understanding around that information. We'll then learn a bit more about public affairs work to market our schools across the district, and the board will have an opportunity to share some feedback around that plan. And we'll close out with some next steps and clear owners and a timeline for how we move forward. There are objectives for each part of our conversation. I'm not going to read each of these out loud, but they're at the top of each slide. So to get us kicked off, there is a huge slide table up here with a lot of words. So I'm going to first share a little bit of an overview to orient everyone to what this is and kind of how this came to be. And then I'm excited to hear feedback and questions among the board. And so this issue of expanding quality seats is obviously a very large, very complex issue. And so what I've attempted to do is to break this down and to synthesize it into key core outcomes to pursue in the work as the board moves forward. And so these outcomes from top to bottom, the first, what I'm proposing is the board considers revisions to existing enrollment policies to ensure that all children and families have equitable access. So this is looking at how our parents and families can access the schools in our district. The second outcome is developing a comprehensive plan for growing the number of high demand and high quality seats in CPS for all students. So building on the first component of this is actually expanding the number of seats that are available, the number of great options that exist across the district. And then lastly, looking at the marketing and the communication strategies associated with this. So how can we ensure that all of the great options that exist for parents and families, everyone has the information that they need, that we are sharing all the great things that are happening in our schools across the district, so parents and families know all the great options that they have. I'm not going to read through everything here in terms of the rationale and the factors to consider, but would love to turn it over to the board to discuss these outcomes, which again represent sort of the key big buckets of work to take on with quite a big complex issue.
Thanks, Joe, for framing this. So board members, do we have any feedback for what's been laid out here as far as what we want to get out of the discussions?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Joe, for the work, because I know it was very tedious and time-consuming. I would like to add thank you for bringing more clarity to me around quality seats, and I'm a visual learner, so this helps to have me process this even more. I wanted to ask you, after I read through this and digest it a little bit further, when do you plan on coming back periodically to give us an update or more current, present report on the progress you're making and any other recommendations?
It's my understanding that this will be a recurring item on the board's agenda each month, so I'd say at minimum monthly.
March 9th.
Okay, so maybe bi-monthly?
Every month.
Every month. Okay, excellent. Thank you.
I think this is great, that we're getting the background and an analysis, but I had also expressed, and I'm not sure if there's board support for this, that we move rather quickly, and instead of losing the students from the 27 schools that were deemed voucher schools, that we move quickly to open up seats and make an awareness of seats that are currently available as soon as possible. So I appreciate the work that you're doing, but March 9th may, and talking about this monthly isn't going to move us forward in, retaining our students and filling the needs of the community. So,
To clarify, that's a great point, and part of this conversation and every one will be identifying some actions to be taken. And so the one you're mentioning is definitely one of them. And so that's part 4 on the agenda that he showed is next steps, owners, and timeline. So anything that comes out of this, any ideas we have, we're prepared to tackle them.
And I'll just briefly add, I may have skimmed over this at the beginning, but for part 3 of the discussion, we're actually going to talk about what action items will exist over the next month. One of those being a discussion around an additional enrollment deadline and an accompanying marketing strategy to go with that. So that actually is part of the conversation tonight.
Board Member Hoffman.
That's just what I was going to say. That I think, like Board Member Bates was saying, I think we need to be pulling out the most, the things that need to be tackled most immediately. And so I think Joe pulled out that one because Board Member Bates, for your assignment last month, we know it needs to happen quickly. So I'm looking forward to that part of the discussion tonight so we can actually get some clear direction going there.
we get to it.
Board Member Bolton.
Appreciate the work, and I also have that sense of urgency that I think the whole board does regarding making some difference even as early as next year and having to take action this year for that. I think it's also reasonable to think in terms of a 3-year sort of plan for it. But I have a question not just about the high quality seats or increasing that. I think we have to also add high demand seats and maybe need a definition of what that may mean, because at least by the numbers that the administration was good enough to give us a couple of months ago, certainly I think 4 of our high schools are at or over capacity. And those are high schools of choice, and some of them, I don't know if that's, all of those seats would be defined as quality seats necessarily, because I haven't quite seen that definition yet, but I do think they're high demand seats. And we have this upward trend in the market to come to CPS, and whether it's Walnut or whether it's SCPA or whether it's Taft, whether it's Clark, in this planning we're going to have to figure out how we accommodate more people, and then also the capacity piece that we mentioned a couple of months ago as well. What's determining capacity? Is it just space, or is it finances regarding staffing and program? So I think we have to address those issues as we go forward in this kind of guided effort. But those are big concerns of mine, because we probably could have many, many more people want to be in CPS if indeed you have the availability. I mean, whether it's Montessori or whether it's an open interest in tech for Taft. There's lots to be done for the demand seats.
Board Member Dansby.
Yeah, given the agenda, can we go back to the agenda slide? I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. If we could just let the process work. I think it's important that we put some frame around the big discussion that we're just beginning. And so we're going to go through a part where we're going to discuss the history. Let's be mindful that this is not only a conversation amongst us, this is a public conversation. So I think it's very important that we go back to the history, set some parameters, and I think what we'll discover is there is a demand for quality seats. And then we do also have a tremendous amount of support needed in our neighborhood schools. We can't take the focus off of neighborhood schools. So we're going to talk about magnet, we're going to talk about overcapacity, we're going to talk about quality, we're going to talk about in demand, we're going to talk about the need to continuously involve our parents and our community and our decision making, and again our neighborhood schools, so that there's quality across the board in every school for every seat. So that's my 2 cents. Let's just stick with the agenda.
Board Member Manera.
I am going to heed on that advice,
All right.
Vice President Copeland-Dansby, and I'm going to then hold my questions as we proceed. Maybe there'll be a more opportune time to make my question.
Thank you. If you want to.
And I'm recording the feedback, and I appreciate it, and we'll play it back certainly as we move along in the conversation. So I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Ronan to take us into a conversation around the history and context of the district's efforts around this issue.
Thank you, Joe. Now, I promise I will not take 15 minutes. We will make this rather quick. In fact, let's move to the next slide, where it's probably good that our constituency realized how we got here. We received a Gates grant a little over a decade ago it was $7 million, and it really was to break down our large comprehensive high schools into small specialty schools. So that's how we came up with the whole high school of choice notion that still exists today, where we got rid of the geographic boundaries. If you lived on the west side, you could go to a high school that interested you on the east side of town. Because you had a bus pass, it didn't cost the district anymore. Your travel time just increased a little bit. And we saw great success with this. Our graduation rate increased, and the whole mobility piece, where if a youngster moved during the year, they got to stay at the school. You just used your bus pass and continued to go. And we said, once you pick a high school, stay there for a year. And the next summer, if you wish to change, you may. But that made a huge difference because youngsters kept moving during the year, wouldn't get their credits, and it impacted graduation rates. And as you can see, those are, it was done in phases. And at the same time, while we were creating these specialty high schools, we also changed the model of Euler, Riverview East, and SCPA into K-12 buildings. And by popular demand, previous boards added Gamble Montessori because there was demand for a second Montessori high school on the west side of town. So that's our whole high school of choice program. Then we continued to look at our high school, and it was just last year where we moved our high schools through the 7 through 12 model, because we discovered that with the new graduation requirements, new state standards, youngsters could start taking high school credits and get credit at grades 7 and 8. So as you can see, they can start taking algebra at 8th grade, geometry at 9th grade, which really allows them to accelerate their pathway through high school. So we are continuing to work on our high school of choice program. Now, just to let you know, how does it work? How do you get to choose your high school? It is an online application. So, in fact, it starts this month on the 23rd. The 6th graders at their elementary schools can go to the computer lab. They pull it up and actually pick their first, 5 choices, 1 through 5. And as you can see the numbers, 92% of our youngsters get their first, second, or third choice. It reruns every month, March through the end of the school year. So if you've got your second choice by May, you may have moved up to your first choice because other youngsters may have moved or changed their mind, etc. And in fact, this is actually what it looks like when the youngster pulls up the application at the school site. They pull it up, they fill in their 5 choices, and then they all have an equal chance in the lottery. And amazingly enough, we really do not get a lot of complaints out of our high school lottery. Everyone seems happy with it. You usually get your first or second choice. Customer service works with you for any youngster who fails to choose. And that goes very, very smoothly. Now, kindergarten lottery. Also, we have a kindergarten lottery. Now, this is, of course, this is different than our high school lottery in that it came about due to the community reports about whether we should have first come, first served waiting in line or a lottery. And for equity, previous boards said 30% of the seats at the high demand magnet schools would be set aside for families who really couldn't stand in line. So each year, the schools who were had the lowest performance index, and those schools change each year, those are the individuals who get to go into the lottery and choose one of the seats in our magnet schools. So that's how the kindergarten lottery works. Now, in the past, just so everyone knows, in the late 1990s, we did allow all of our neighborhood schools to actually pick a program. 2/3 of the staff would have to get together and vote on it, and we had some great programs: Expeditionary Learning, Roots and Wings, Connect, Direct Instruction, Success for All, Coalition of Essential Schools. And these programs, typically outside consultants came in. Each school had a different flavor. But we discovered it got to be costly, and as teachers would leave, you'd have to continually train your staff. And we discovered a youngster who changes school during the school year could go from a direct instruction model of reading to a Success for All program. And this was really the beginning of the state report card and the accountability system. And we, as a result of this, if Joe, you flip to the next slide, we were an academic emergency for 4 years at the start of the state report card. And a lot of it was the youngsters having to go from one reading program at one school to a completely different way of learning how to read in another school. So over the years, we really did pull back from that and had a standard reading program for the entire district. So when a child moves from school A to school B, they should be around the same place, and we're using the same techniques, a very balanced approach. Yes, we teach phonics. Yes, we do whole language, just a very balanced approach to reading and not the multitude of programs that we had in the district. So just to let people know, that is why we pulled back from that. Plus, it was quite costly. Most of these programs cost about $500,000 apiece. So I am going to stop right there. That was not too bad, a history of where we've been in 4 minutes or less. And we're going to talk about our current marketing strategy. So Janet Walsh and Don Grady are going to walk us through that. So Janet.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask Don Grady, our marketing manager, to join me at the podium. We've had the opportunity during the course of this school year to have conversations with the board at both the board level and committee level on our marketing strategy. And with the encouragement and support of the board, we have expanded some strategies this year, and we, such as social media, which we incorporate now in all of our marketing campaigns. And we have also really analyzed the return on investment of some of the strategies we have used in the past and are launching new strategies. So I'd like Dawn to explain in greater detail, and then I believe that Joe will come back and facilitate a discussion with the board members for some feedback and maybe other suggestions and ideas. So with that, I'm going to ask Dawn to take it over.
Good evening. One of the strategies that Janet talked about repurposing for this year, we used to do high school showcase and magnet school showcases. They were very high-priced items in terms of trying to drive attendance at both of the events, just to have an opportunity to talk to them about our school programs. So we decided, because the return on investment was so low for those events, the attendance was dropping year after year, to repurpose that into more of a digital advertising strategy. What you're looking at right now is a snapshot of what we've done for each of the big enrollment buckets. Magnet schools being the first one that we see during the school year. We do have, I think you all have a copy of the Magnet Guide. That is actually direct mailed to not just students who are in charter and private schools, but also students who are in our elementary buildings who may want to investigate a magnet program. So that goes out in advance of the magnet application season. We also continued with radio advertising this year, targeting women primarily between the ages of 25 and 54. And then we also launched a social media campaign that ran primarily on Facebook and Twitter. But for the high schools of choice, we did ramp up our radio advertising. We do 2 campaigns for high schools of choice. One, we target teens. We use a teen voice for that campaign. We actually used one of our graduates from the School from Creative and Performing Arts. Some of you may remember Leandria, our poet. She is actually the voice of the youth spot that ran on KISS 107, Q 102, and WIZF radio. We also have an adult spot that runs on the old school station and Warm 98. We have 2 rounds of billboards that promoted the High Schools of Choice program. One primarily around My Tomorrow messaging that ran in the fall, but you'll start to see billboards pop up in the next couple of weeks at 18 different locations around the city that promote the application time frame and encourage people to consider our schools and offer the web address as a touch point. Let's see. We are also doing a digital advertising campaign. That campaign involves both IP targeting and retargeting. This was a piece we were trying to move away from the direct mail strategy. So we chose IP targeting, which basically means that I take your physical home address and we identify an IP address for that household, and we send digital advertising to you as opposed to mailing something to the home. It cuts costs because we don't have to print, and we also have the ability then you establish a footprint. Once you link on our website, we're also following you around. I don't know if you've seen that when you're online. You go to a website, you pull up a site of something you like, maybe you don't buy, and you start to see ads for that particular store as you move around the web. We're doing that. But we also found out that we couldn't abandon direct mail altogether because we were only able to target 48% of our target households in charter and private schools through IP targeting. So we are still going to do a direct mail campaign to put something in the hands of that 52%. Our social media efforts are continuing. We definitely have ramped up our social media presence. We went from about 2,800 Facebook fans at the beginning of the school year. We are now over 7,800 Facebook fans. We have our high school messaging now has sort of dominated our presence on Facebook, so the pictures that you see will all be around high school messaging and our programs and career technical programs that we offer in the schools. You will see media relations. There will be a story next week on the list promoting our Zoo Academy and Hughes program. They're also going to go and visit Dater as well. So we'll be doing more media relations. But there'll also be several posts everywhere between Twitter and Facebook about the strengths of our schools. And we have a promotional video that we have produced. There's a 3-minute version that runs on the web. That's part of the digital advertising campaign, but there's also a 60-second abbreviated version that's running on Channel 12, Channel 5, Channel 19, and Star 64. Those began on Friday. Let's see, am I missing anything
I've already
else?
seen that one. It's pretty cool.
Okay, great. Well, we're planning the same strategies for kindergarten in terms of billboards. We will also be shooting a video for that. That'll have the 3-minute version as well as the 60-second version. We will buy another television campaign for that, but that'll be promoting that kindergarten neighborhood enrollment. So with that, I'd like to show you the 3-minute video.
Time it again. Time it. Click the picture.
Imagine a high school where hands-on experiences solve real-world problems, where community leaders are champions of students' success, and where students pursue their dreams with confidence. Cincinnati Public Schools has reimagined high school, combining higher expectations, technology, and mentoring to prepare students for college and the workplace. Each of our 17 high schools is different, but all lead students on a path of self-discovery through a rigorous college preparatory curriculum, and all are open to students with disabilities. Cincinnati Public Schools is the top-performing urban district in Ohio, largely based on performance of our award-winning high schools. We've restructured to offer advanced placement and dual enrollment that helps make college less expensive by giving students a head start on earning credits. Students begin high school in the 7th grade, so they're prepared for the more rigorous content taught in grades 9 through 12. Our instructors have mastered the subjects they teach and help students dig deeper to understand and apply what they've learned in the real world. Speaking of the real world, Cincinnati Public High Schools offers dozens of technical programs that equip students with job skills and credentials to help launch their careers upon graduation. Gilbert A. Dater High School's Culinary Arts program allows students to graduate with hundreds of hands-on hours that will place them ahead of their peers in college-level culinary schools. Hughes STEM High School is home to the Zoo Academy. Housed on the grounds of the Cincinnati Zoo, it's the only program in the U.S. that allows students to work directly with zookeepers. Other career pathways prepare students to be medical professionals, engineers, software developers, and more. Woodward High School's Building Technologies program teaches both the theory and business of construction. Hands-on training helps students earn apprenticeships and land summer jobs in construction. The Advanced Manufacturing program focuses on engineering, and the Health Technology pathway introduces students to biotechnology, laboratory science, nutrition, sports medicine, and patient care. The celebrated School of Creative and Performing Arts not only prepares students for performance, but also trains those who want to work behind the scenes to ensure a flawless production. From information technology at Taft to nursing programs at Riverview East, Cincinnati Public High Schools have the perfect program to meet your interests, skills, and needs. CPS just completed a $1 billion renovation project to ensure that all schools meet the technology requirements of a 21st century education. And all of our schools are environmentally friendly, meeting or exceeding engineering and efficiency standards. CPS spent more than $19 million to upgrade athletic facilities, including a football and track complex at Stargill Stadium, a gymnasium and synthetic turf football and all-weather track at Withrow, and a football, soccer, and track complex at Walnut Hills. Our high schools offer hundreds of sports and extracurricular activities that make learning fun. As the region's largest school district, Cincinnati Public Schools simply has more to offer. Now's the best time to start thinking about high school options. Our application period takes place February 17th through the 27th. Here's how to apply. See for yourself how Cincinnati Public Schools prepares students for life.
I know how much time and work goes into video production. You guys really deserve that round of applause. I'm sure it was a weight off your shoulder to finally get it out there, too.
All right. Thank you all. So I think as the video that we just watched demonstrates, there are pretty amazing things happening at so many schools across the district, many of those schools that are under-enrolled. So I want to turn the conversation over to the board to talk about just thoughts on the marketing strategy more broadly that was just shared. There's some questions up here to potentially consider in this conversation. But overall, the question is what can we do to ensure that parents and families across the district have all the information they need to know about the great options that they have given this issue.
Thank you, Joe. So as you said, now is the time for our board to kind of chew on these questions and think about what we've just seen as far as the history and what our marketing strategies are, and then make the suggestions to the administration that we'd like to see. So it looks like...
Just a question of clarification.
Yeah.
Are these numbers those on the waiting list? Because it doesn't correspond to the numbers handwritten on the right.
You are correct. The numbers handwritten on the right are the capacity. If the building holds 500 and there's only 400 in the building, they're under enrolled. So there, for instance, at AME, there's no one currently on the waiting list, although they do have, there are 22 students over. So I certainly don't think we should be marketing any more youngsters to AME because they're a bit over. No one's on the waiting list. They've taken everyone. But, you might want to look at an AWL and say, oh, look, there are about over 100 under-enrolled. Let's go out and market. But the problem is a lot of the youngsters who go to AWL haven't arrived yet. They're constantly enrolling throughout the year. And if we fill up all the slots that are left, as youngsters come from foreign countries and want to go there, there'll be no slots left. So typically AWL and Roberts, we leave some open seats just because we know the youngsters will be coming in October and November. They're just not here right now to make those choices. But there's other schools like Parker Woods or the Avondale, the Montessoris have empty seats, so we certainly could market those schools. College Hill has some empty seats. Woodford does also. Woodford Paideia. So I think those are the schools we should probably look at.
Ms. Bolton, I believe you had.
One particular thing, just a general idea, and I think we've mentioned it before for public affairs. You know, unfortunately, there is this perception that we have the two systems. You know, we've got the magnet and we've got our neighborhood. I just think it would be, I understand the marketplace piece regarding magnet and enrollment, but if we just had an enrollment drive that didn't necessarily separate the magnet effort from the neighborhood effort. And I don't know that we are still doing that, but at least there's that impression that's there that we're really marketing more the magnets than necessarily the neighborhood schools. And I think that's knowing how well our neighborhood schools are doing and how simple some of that marketing could actually be. It would be great to just think of it as an enrollment drive for all of our schools rather than the emphasis on magnet enrollment. But at least I perceive is still out there.
I just want to just build on what Board Member Bolton was saying, that I wonder if, and what Superintendent Ronan was saying, I wonder if this enrollment drive for the magnet waiting list we're using as a, like a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like this would be a, like a pilot for our kindergarten roundup that's coming up. So if we try to be very focused here and we say Parker Woods, North Avondale, Montessori, obviously both Montessori programs, we know that there's waiting lists out there for Montessori because we can see some of our other Montessori schools already have a waiting list. So those would be good parents to begin targeting and letting them know about these other openings and whatever strategies we come up with to do this strategy. We can use those for our kindergarten roundup that's about to start and really be figuring out what worked, what didn't work, and applying that to our neighborhood school enrollment that's about to start. And along those same lines, I know Woodford, when I was out there talking to Mr. Moore, he is very interested in figuring out how to boost his enrollment. So I think he would be very excited if that was one of the schools we were using as well. But I'm wondering if keeping this focused on a couple of schools, figuring out what works and didn't work there, and then applying it later is one idea.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think the intent of having this magnet waiting list is so that we could really see where the under enrollment was taking place. So it would make a natural great next step as a, what did you call it, enrollment drive, to start with these schools that have the greatest under-enrolled value.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, I was just going to say, just to finish that off, is that I think one of the things has to be figuring out how to get parents into the buildings themselves, right? And so I think when you walk into Parker Woods, I know I've said it before, but if you walk into that building and take that tour, there are parents there to join you on that tour, and parent to parent, hearing from another parent about why they chose that school and why they are so excited for their child to be there is powerful. Hearing from that principal who could not be more excited to be the principal of that school. And so I think just as we're thinking about this, it's not just, you know, what are we going to send out to people to tell them about this great school, but how do we draw them in to get them to come visit that school? I mean, when you come into these buildings and see for yourself what's going on there, I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. So what I did hear Public Affairs say that they were going to take the same video process and some social media process to market for the elementary schools, but I do agree with you that it is more work on the ground as to how do you attract people to the buildings to really see, you know, for themselves. And so I just had a creative idea literally this moment, you know, just about public and partner engagement in that committee and how some initiatives can really be used on the ground level there as we're still working on our work plan for the year. That's just one thing to throw out.
Mr. Mayor.
So, this is a good conversation for the point that I wanted to bring up, and there is unintentional marketing that happens within our parents, right? And whether they're involved or not, we have gained a lot of trust in buildings that are doing great work, and they all are, but in specific programs to what Ms. Bolton was talking about regarding high demand seats. And Superintendent touched on it. From my perspective, we have a lot of immigrant families who depend on the trust that other families have gotten in these buildings. So it's not about the marketing, it's about the word of mouth trust, and actually the what they've seen has been successful for other students in their situation. So how do we bring that to the forefront? And then again, we might consider expanding seats, but these families will continue to come, like Superintendent was saying, and they're going to look for these specific schools. So there's going to be programs that we're going to have to think about broadening to other schools or building onto other schools, but I don't think that's where we want to be. But we have to consider this unintentional marketing that's happening because of trust. They're all positive things. And also because there is already a trend of our immigrant families, our ELL families, who will already be coming to these schools, whether there are seats or not. And I've heard it from the families. Some families want to go to these specific schools. They might not be magnet schools, but they have the right programs. They have internal programs that, again, you know, we've got to toot our own horn. We've been amazing at building these programs for our ELL families. So let's consider these factors that not only highlight how good our district is doing, how well parents are trusting our district, but we're running out of space, and we need to figure out where we put them. So I just wanted to throw that into the mix because it's related to marketing, but it's a very unintentional marketing that it's happening in our schools.
Board Member Nelms.
Yeah, ditto, first of all, to everything that was said. I think it was a very interesting, not only presentation, but an opportunity to discuss the broad range of this issue. One of the things I hear said, but from a different perspective, and we all hear things differently, then how do we, aside from trust, promote better and greater accessibility? How does that translate from the board to the administration to the principal and then to the school? Because in all our work, if our schools aren't inviting enough, and if you've taken a tour around the district, some schools are a little bit more inviting than others. We have principals that are so overprotective that they forget that the schools belong to the community, the citizens, and the kids. Now, $19 million to upgrade athletic facilities. I remember playing at Taft and Bloom and Sands and not having access to some of the type of facilities, state of the art, that we have now. That's a big accomplishment. And with that said, we know that academic success is also balanced by extracurricular opportunity. And so with that said, greater accessibility for me would be something that we need to look at and how we promote more parental engagement. We talk about it all the time. But a question to Don and Janet, excellent video. I wanted to know, is it doable to transcribe that video or get me a copy of the video? Is that possible? Can you subscribe it? Because not only do we see it, but we can read it, and then we can also be ambassadors in our individual roles for what the school and the system is offering.
I just shared it on Facebook today.
Did you? Excellent.
Me too.
Board Member Bolton.
Okay. I mean, a transcription of the video.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube?
Can't hear it. It's on YouTube.
Okay. Well, my tube ain't working too. So if you could help me, then I can get in line with you too.
Okay. Just again, thinking in terms of 3 years, so it's a little bit more, proactive, and it's not reactive, and it's just for 1 year versus down the road. The best kept secret, and we're thrilled about the video, the best kept secret, I think, in Cincinnati Public is the range of career paths and what used to be called for old people like me, voc ed, because that's always the number one criticism that we hear. Why can't they be taking this? Why can't? So that's very exciting. I think we could end up being the number one group, if you will, or school district within our region that offers these multiple career paths, and I think that's a tremendous selling point. But also, I think we have to also keep in mind that we're going to be needing to deal with some gentrification issues in some of our neighborhoods, and we need to build in a way of dealing with that. We also need to be looking down there regarding preschool and the spaces, because all the polling is everybody wants preschool, but nobody necessarily wants to build a building for it. But we may have some space based upon some places being under-enrolled. So as the superintendent points out, under-enrollment may not be that bad in some places because it may give us more options in the next couple of years to fill it out with new requests or new folks or what have you. So I think that's important, and we may want to drill down a little bit more. If you look at like J.P. Parker, there's I don't know how many people in that boundary, first of all, don't go to the J.P. Parker building, but they are going to Sands, or they are going to PRM, or someplace else. So the membership might be interesting to see, because you might be able to relieve some of the pressure in the over-enrolled areas if we were able to build a school within a school or serve in multiple ways. So there's just so many cool new ideas, but I think we have a great deal of flexibility. Again, though, I keep worrying about how many spaces we still need within high school.
Former base.
Yes. Is there an advisory function as part of this plan? Because what I hear from families is, yes, I know that this high school has this program, high school has this program, but what is going to be best for my child? I know that I met a child who was placed at Gamble a few years ago, and it was a terrible match for him, even though on paper, and just culturally, it was not a good match. So to have descriptions and brochures, that's helpful as a first step, but, as people decide which is best, I think that we really, even if, we do that with our HR function. We meet with people who want to work in our district one-on-one. We should be able to offer that to our families as well, so to make sure that they pick the right choice for their child.
No, you are correct. We do career inventories with the youngsters to give them an idea of what high school would be best for them. Then a lot of the high schools actually go out to the elementary schools because they're interested in recruiting and do a presentation for the 6th grade class. We bring the 6th grade teachers in just to walk them through the process to make sure they know how to log every child on and make sure that they do have the brochure so they know all the choices. And then customer service is available, and especially for people who aren't sure or didn't sign up, customer service reaches out. So you could always refer a family who maybe isn't sure to customer service.
Right, but as for those in the community who might not know about these schools, we reach out to our own, we reach out to the children, we're not necessarily reaching out to parents and counseling the parents along with the children.
We do mail this to private and parochial too.
An advisory capacity,
but you're right,
not just advertising, which is a good first step, but.
Dansby and then Ms. Bolton.
Yeah, I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, Board Member Bates, and really being on the ground, intentional in the faces of our community and our families. I understand the high school showcase was a really expensive and long drawn out process, but I think it gives an opportunity to have real face-to-face time with parents who are looking to make that right, best decision for their child going into that high school level. So I'm not opposed to finding ways to roll our sleeves up and really, again, hit the pavement and figure out how to meet our families where they are. If we're talking about an ELL group, or if we're talking about, a group who, wants to travel across town, but there are
stigmas about doing that, but that could be the best program for that particular child. So there's so many barriers, and I just think things that stand in the way that we have to meet our families where they are and not all the time rely on a nice book. I love the book, but if I didn't go to the school, I wouldn't even know what's offered. So I think that, again, meeting our community.
How do we do it?
I've got some great ideas. Again, going back to the showcase. You could do a quarterly showcase of 3 to 4 schools at a time. You don't have to do a huge thing at the convention center one time per the year. I love the idea of showcasing at the elementary level. And then, when you do these things over and over again, it's a marketing tool. Then the community gets familiar with it, and they know every April, if you will, CPS administration or whoever will be in those elementary schools doing one-to-one FaceTime with families to let them know what they can look forward to. You can do it at the 5th grade level. You don't have to wait. There are all kinds of ways, but I think it's urgent, like you said earlier. And I think if you break it off into chunks instead of just thinking globally, how do we deal with this mass issue all at one time? Break it off into chunks.
Two things. I know the parochial schools do a great job of their open houses. And it's tremendous banners everywhere, and indeed that come tonight, the parochial schools, where you can go, see what it looks like inside, and they have some staff there. I think that's good. But I know that the superintendent, when we moved to 712, we had a period of time, especially I think from Quebec and whatever, all those urgent issues, we had almost enrollment officers. There are people that, the families could call to figure out how to facilitate that. Maybe as part of the public affairs piece, there would be a number that you could, if you're wondering about it or you need more advice or whatever, I don't know, I'm sure we can't probably fund it or set it up now, but that did help a lot. And where people get individual ombudsmanship service to answer some of those questions rather than just the hard copy or even the social media. Some function like that, maybe people could help us with that.
Board Member Hoffman.
So going back to what Board Member Bates was talking about, I think the advisors, and I think you're right up that alley. I will look this back up, but I was literally just reading an article about another school district. I want to say it was New Orleans, because they have all choice in their district, that has specifically that function where there are folks on staff whose whole job it is to meet with parents face to face, learn about their child, and help advise them on what the best fit for their child would be. So this isn't unprecedented that, there's lots of districts who are facing this issue. So that would be an interesting one. But I think one of my questions specifically about where we started the conversation around marketing is I think we also have a couple different constituencies we want to market to, right? Like those folks who we know are already considering CPS and are now just trying to decide which CPS school they want to go to. And they need certain messages and sets of information. But then there's a whole other constituency, right? Is the folks who currently aren't considering CPS because potentially they have outdated notions of what CPS is. And those are people that I think we have to have very different messages going to. And figuring out, and I said before, but figuring out how do we bring those people into our schools, right? I think we all hear, we've probably all heard stereotypes about our schools that we know aren't true since we spend time in them, that can be aggravating, right? And I usually just say, just go take a tour of the school. See for yourself what's happening there and the learning and the teaching that's happening there. Or even I was talking to a parent who was convinced Walnut Hills was not the right fit for their daughter because she grew up here. And I think one of the wonderful things about Cincinnati is that people who are from here love it and they come back here or they stay here. And my own children are 6th generation Cincinnatians, so I have nothing against generation upon generation of Cincinnatians. But I think it's also hard though, because you have notions that are potentially now outdated about what a school is. And so this parent had an idea of that Walnut Hills was a place where you go, you either make it or you don't, right? And that's kind of an old school idea of what Walnut is. She took the leap, put her child there, and I was just talking to her last week about it, and she said they could not be happier with Walnut and all of the support that their daughter is getting at that school, and it was absolutely the right fit. But I think there's that whole other group of parents who right now might not be considering us because of some outdated notions of who we are, and figuring out how do we market to them. And then as another piece of that I would like to kind of put out there, the public affairs team, is how we make this a year-round thing, so that we're not just marketing before kindergarten roundup or before magnet enrollment, but we are constantly getting out there who we are, and we're owning our message about who we are in CPS and what we're doing.
Thank you, Board Member Hoffman. Mr. Nelms, I believe you had.
I was trying to just hold my peace, but I feel like I'm in church. Well, I wanted to say, though, you know, there is a saying that you could be so spiritually high that you're not any earthly good. As it relates to this matter, we could be so technologically high that we're not any community good. What's the percentage of residents that continue to listen to the radio? And I'm going to let y'all ponder that. Because I think one of the things we have to consider doing is continuing to get outside the box by using every conceivable vehicle of telling the story of CPS. I know when I first got elected, I think Mary, me and you kind of partnered, and we went on Lincoln Ware, and we set it up that we would go on Lincoln Ware quarterly. That's free. Now, Lincoln Ware is worldwide. People, and he doesn't charge us anything. And then you got WLW, down to down. But how often do we use those vehicles to get the word out, even on a quarterly basis, to let the community know what we're doing? And so we have to look at every possible means of communicating public affairs, what's going on and what we are offering, and what we offering the parents that continue to support our endeavors.
I'm going to check in on two things. First, Joe, how are we doing on our timeline?
We are running up on the end of our time, unfortunately.
Secondly, I wanted to add that this board is responsive to the community, and so you'll see that one of the processes we might change a little for these conversations is, if anything sparks your interest as we're discussing and you didn't previously sign up as a speaker during the speaking of the public time, we encourage you to go down to our board assistant, Ms. Davis, and you can sign up to speak if something, you know, touched your heart as we were speaking up here, if you have a great idea that we may not have considered. So typically you must sign up before the meeting in order to speak, but during these conversations we're going to change that process a little bit. So I wanted to let you guys know about that. We're close to the end of our time, so if there's any last thoughts, let's get those in.
Yeah, one other thought is we can pull people in, get them excited to be part of our schools, and then we have to make sure that the how you do this is easy, right? So if I go to our website and I want to find out like how to get my kids signed up, and I have to click like find a school, and then so I click, and then I keep clicking, and then I have to click again before I can get to the form to fill out. There's a lot that goes in. Then there's a separate process for how we do magnet schools, and then a separate process for how you do SCPA, and a separate process for Walnut, and a separate process for our high schools of choice. There's a lot of processes that we have in our schools, and it's not always very apparent or transparent to our parents. It's a lot of parent in that sentence. And so I think, though, that we really need to be thinking about how can we better lay out on our website how you even go about having your child enroll at our school in a really easy way, and also a very transparent way.
I think what I'm going to be looking for as we move forward and talk about next steps is perhaps a plan from our administration that could include this being a part of the set priorities for the family and community engagement team, and how that interacts with public affairs. Like, given what we've just said, we understand that marketing is a huge part, as is community and family engagement. So how does that administrative team take just that little nugget on and create a plan for us? You know, it definitely needs to be a priority, but I know you already have priorities set for the year, you know, so how does this incorporate there? And then you also have to bring in customer service, which I guess is a part of that family community engagement team, because then we're on to the other issues that we've talked about a long time, Board Member Hoffman and I, just customer service and ease of use. and then understanding the barriers that our families have, whether it's with literacy or access or, those kinds of things. So that would be my suggestion for a takeaway. And I love the idea of making this is just an ongoing, all the time process that never stops. It isn't just a targeted enrollment blitz, but an ongoing telling of the story, recruiting, community, family engagement all the time. We've got some really great programs and great stories to tell, and we just need to get out there and do that. So thank you.
Board Member Bates.
Okay, I'm jumping ahead to part 3 because we're probably not going to have a...
We're on part 4.
Part.
We're clarifying next steps, ownership.
Right, but we kind of skipped the...
Are you referring to the specific enrollment deadline? They kind of all happen at the same time.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, the second part of part 3. We're talking about a strategy that's very different than the schools that are voucher schools. And that's how I brought this conversation about, that our schools, the 27 schools that are low performing, are being targeted to draw those students away into their schools. We haven't even discussed that yet. And if we have schools that we know are being targeted by the voucher schools, say St. Boniface and Northside is targeting the kids from Chase, why aren't we talking to those parents about going to Parker Woods? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not real worried about people getting upset at our schools. If they're underperforming, they're underperforming. Why aren't we talking to the families at Rockdale about going to North Avondale? I know that's not something it may cause a lot of dissent in our district. We have not discussed that yet, but that's exactly what's going on. And I don't think it's a bad idea to do what our competition is doing, quite honestly.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. To follow up on what the Vice President said, I think one of the things that's interesting about our 2 major initiatives is that, as you're pointing out, that Facet and PPE can do this on an ongoing. Obviously, what we're talking about here impacts every one of the committees. I mean, we can't have the superintendent design a budget and bring it to the finance and then bring it to the board if we're just funding what we did this year, because this is going to cost money what we're doing or what have you. Same with policy. We're going to have to change policies probably. So, and certainly that's just student achievement. It doesn't do us any good to send out postcards or do social media if the programs we have don't attract people in the first place. So this is what's so exciting about the initiative piece, that every single one of the committees is going to be focused on some aspect and then also have to coordinate what we do with each other.
So I think, seeing no other comments, as we move on to part 4, clarifying next steps, owners, and timelines, let's ask, are there any specific assignments that came out of the discussion? I know you kind of started us off with one that you wanted the administration to consider, the enrollments. So if you wouldn't mind giving that, and then we'll see if there's any others.
Yes, assign to the administration a time frame for a second enrollment period for magnet schools with a strategy to be developed.
And I think for which particular magnet schools, right? We want to know which schools they're going to target.
The magnet schools that have openings.
Okay.
And yes.
The under-enrolled.
Under-enrolled.
From our list that we got.
Yes.
Yep.
Right. So just targeting
as a start. And I'm not sure that if this is possible for this year, although I don't know why it wouldn't be, because we had a great turnout for our teacher fair. Or educator fair that we had at Woodward. But if we are over-enrolled at some schools or have the possibility to add, that we take a look at the under-enrolled schools and look at opening some classrooms there with programs that are successful and right now are over-enrolled.
And I also heard an assignment about kindergarten roundup and an overall enrollment drive.
Yeah, the enrollment drive is what I'm interested in, and I think we do have to at least have a report back about additional space at particularly our high schools, because there is a demand, and I don't know that we can answer the demand, whether it's Taft IT or whether it's We've got the Walnut situation, of course, and the Clark situation. So just focusing on those over-enrolled or demand high schools particularly.
There's, oh, sorry.
Hoffman?
Yeah, so I think there's this question too around who we're marketing to. How are we going to pull in people how are we going to market to the people we know are already interested in the CPS to make sure they're going to end up at the right school? And then how do we pull in people who aren't potentially considering us as their option?
Okay, so how do we make that into assignment? What is our targeted marketing plan?
Yeah. I think when they come back with this marketing plan that we're asking for, how are they marketing to these different constituencies?
Yeah, I think the assignment is, again, back to how do we make this a priority for the Family and Community Engagement team in partnership with Public Affairs? And I guess, the takeaway is an ongoing marketing plan. And then we get into specifics about the segmented recruitment and how we market to different constituencies, I would think. I don't think we can have a plan until we understand how,
Well, I think we're talking differences between short-term and long-term, right? If we're talking about Board Member Bates's plan, we need to know who are we targeting for those schools, right? So are we targeting the schools that were on the voucher list plus anybody who's on SAN's wait list right now and Dater's wait list right now? We're targeting because we know they're interested in Montessori, so we should target them. So I think the short-term, who are we targeting? And then in the longer term.
Yeah, I guess we're talking about two separate issues because I think that's one set of issue that needs to be dealt with right away. I'm trying to get to a more long-term strategic plan.
So for short-term, let's make sure we have very clear assignments, and I think long-term, what I know Joe can help us do is maybe rewatch the video of this conversation, look at your notes, and filter through what you think you heard, because I think that's where your skills are the best, and we've seen that in the deck you created tonight. Yep. So once again, polling for any immediate assignments that we think are time-sensitive. Otherwise, I think we'll just kind of revisit the topic with more longer-term planning at next month's meeting. All right. Well, thank you, board members. Thank you, Mr. Moorman, for helping us get this started. And thank you, administration, for sharing that awesome video and some of the history behind our enrollment in schools. Okay, the next item on the board's agenda is the superintendent evaluation tool. We need to discuss the status of approving the superintendent's evaluation tool. I believe this has gone through committee. The board has seen the updated tool, which, another shout out to Joe, was developed by our policy advisor and board fellow. So are there any comments or matters to discuss about the tool now? I know Ms. Bolton has one.
I just have a couple. Three things. Love the evaluation tool itself. Have some issues about process because I think it's significantly different than what we've done before, but that can be an endorsement. That's great. I would suggest though that as we look at it, the protocol be adjusted properly because currently even jurisdictionally in the Student Achievement Committee, unlike the Finance Committee, which has the issue of involving itself with the treasurer's evaluation, I just think as we move forward on this, because it is different, we probably look at adjusting the protocol and the bylaws regarding the role of the Student Achievement Committee so that it can indeed do what it just did, and it's a great evaluation. So
I want to make sure I understand. Could you?
Yeah, the Student Achievement Committee over time has done more and more regarding the superintendent evaluation, just like finance.
Developing the tool.
Yeah, developing the tool. It isn't necessarily written that it does do that within our protocol or bylaws, and I think you just make that adjustment because I think it's valuable to have that committee, like the Finance Committee that does the treasurer, the committee do it. I would just say make those adjustments so that we're within our protocol.
Okay, I understand.
That's it. But I like the tool very much.
Does anybody, I kind of wanted to give the final comment.
Oh, all right. We'll hold off on board on page.
Go for it.
Okay.
All right.
This is my moment.
It better be good.
It is good. So we have planned, Student Achievement Committee has planned a training for this instrument so that we're not all over the place when we're doing our evaluations. And it's going to be a brief training. It's going to be 30 minutes prior to the executive session of the February 23rd board meeting. And our policy chair has agreed to bump up the policy committee meeting to accommodate us. So we will meet at 5 o'clock on the 23rd, and Joe will take us through a brief training on how to use the tool. Now, this is the biggie. We have to have the superintendent's evaluation completed by March 1st. So we're going to receive the training on Monday, and we have to have the, at least in writing, we have to have the superintendent's evaluation completed by March the 1st, which is, a week away, 8 days away. So we really have to do it that week.
Or is there any way we could have her set it up as a recorded video or something?
Well, we're going to record it, but just the first time around, we'll go over it together. Mm-hmm.
Bravo. That was your moment?
Right. It doesn't take much.
I don't want to say anything after she's spoken the last word. That's right. It doesn't have to be executive session for the training.
No. This is a training. It's not a meeting. We don't have to call a meeting for a training. We're not going to be deliberating the evaluation. Joe is going to be presenting. He's going to be teaching us.
Okay. Good idea.
All right, so Ms. Bates did get the last word after all. Okay, now it's time for the announcements and hearing of the public. We have 5 speakers that have signed up tonight. I'll call the first 3: Peter Morehouse, James Page, and Regina A. Hawkins. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. If you would come down to the podium, Mr. Morehouse, and then Mr. Page and Ms. Hawkins, if you would wait in the wings. Madam Treasurer, if you would please start the timer for 3 minutes for each speaker.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
My name is Peter Morehouse, and I'm here on behalf of the Choice Neighborhoods, Cincinnati Choice Neighborhoods, and the North Fairmount community to express support for the continued use and improvement of the North Fairmount Elementary School as a center for education and community development. A recent plan developed by the community, the Cincinnati Choice Neighborhoods Transformation Plan, identifies educational opportunities and early childhood development as essential to neighborhood revitalization. Specifically, residents expressed a need for greater access to early childhood and elementary school education and workforce development and training. The North Fairmount Elementary School building has the potential to serve as a primary community learning center. Our understanding is that the Cincinnati Public Schools will resume occupancy of the North Fairmount Elementary School in June 2015. As a community organizer for the Cincinnati Choice Neighborhoods Transformation Plan, I invite Cincinnati Public Schools to engage with community members as it plans for the future of the North Fairmount Elementary School building. In this period of transition and development, we encourage CPS to assume a leadership role to ensure access to high-quality education for all North Fairmount residents, whether through the operation of a school or by supporting educational programming and community space and community access to community space at the building. We look forward to working with you to ensure the North Fairmount Elementary School building continues to be a community resource for North Fairmount, Sutterview, and all surrounding neighborhoods. And this letter is signed by Pamela J. Adams, President, North Fairmount Community Council, Mary Mimes, Sutterview resident, Nadine Watson, Marquette Manor Resident Council President, and myself, Peter Morehouse, Community Organizer for Cincinnati Choice Neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morehouse. And we do have the letter that was distributed. Just so you know, we have a copy. Thank you. Mr. Page is next, and then Ms. Hawkins, and after that, Sabrina Tittle.
Howdy. Good evening. My name is James Page. I'm a vice president for Johns Hopkins University. A child begins school year excited. A sixth grader, he's a leader in his school. He knows that this is going to be his best year ever. Previous year, he made honor roll all 4 quarters, and he wants to do the same this year. The first week he comes home with a knot on his head because students are throwing rocks because he doesn't feel and fit in. A few weeks later, he's taunted by kids with cell phones on a school bus trying to get him upset so they can record it and show it on YouTube. The following quarter, the student shows...
Hey, can you slow down just a little bit and speak up?
Yes. The following quarter, students turn off the lights in the bathroom and decide to rough him up. Last week, the child is sent home with a possible broken nose from getting beat up in school. It's obvious right now I am talking about my own son and the experience he's had at Pleasant Ridge Montessori. The vision of CPS speaks to the goal of a world-class education, unleashing the potential of every student. Your mission speaks to a culture of excellence and engaged students. As a result of bullying, overwhelming workload of students, the upper school that my son is in, my son is struggling academically and socially this year. The fire that he began the school year with has faded away, and can you blame him? The question I have is simply, how can the potential of a child be unleashed in an environment that have characteristics closer to an overcrowded daycare than that of a world-class educational atmosphere? How can we expect students to learn when they fear their fellow citizens? In what environment can teachers properly educate their students if they spend most of their time acting as disciplinarians and not scholars guiding the next generation of leaders? My wife and I pay over $10,000 every year in property income tax, and I would love to see a return on that investment, but we feel that we're being scammed by CPS. However, we want more. We want our community school to succeed. We have an 11th grader at a private school. We have an 8th grader at another private school. And the question that we have is, will we soon have a 6th grader in a private school because we can't get a return on our investment? To paraphrase Dr. King's I Have a Dream, it is obvious today that CPS has defaulted on its promissory notes so far as their students are concerned. Yes, we have exclusive clubs such as Walnut and Kilgore, but for the mass majority of students, instead of honoring that sacred obligation of a world-class learning environment, CPS has given our children a bad check, a check that has come returned with the words insufficient funds. But I refuse to believe that the bank of knowledge is empty in my neighborhood, in my community. My wife and I refuse to believe there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of this Cincinnati community we live. So I have a question. How can I cash this check for my child so that he will receive upon demand the riches of the knowledge of safety, knowledge, and individuality without fear of repercussions or bullying? A child should not have to be sent home with the fear of a broken nose in 6th grade.
Can you stay there,
Mr. Page, a very poignant speech.
Let me speak, please.
Yeah.
Generally, we make exceptions for comments that's being made, and I'm perturbed that safety and security is not being taken serious at Pleasant Ridge. Now, I don't know the whole incident. I do know you personally, and this gentleman is also the former vice president of the Children's Hospital before assuming his current role. And because we have an environment that you don't feel that you was given proper recourse and redress, you need to address it right now, and we need to do it in a matter of public, because not only the climate that exists to what you described, but it's also the same climate that exists in this country, with males being assaulted, losing their lives for whatever reason. And if your son has this much potential, then all of us need to be concerned about tomorrow, whether he'll have that same opportunity to feel safe, because if you're not safe and secure, you can't learn, as well as not being fed. So I don't know what the next steps need to be, but something needs to be done.
Oh, certainly. And Mr. Miles is the assistant superintendent over Pleasant Ridge Montessori. Would you mind giving him all the details? so we could follow up. I'm terribly sorry about your experience.
Can I have a follow-up from you? Yeah. Please, the whole board. Yeah. Okay.
Reassuring to know next steps as they take place, so thank you.
Dan, you have my number?
Yep.
Feel free to call.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Next, we have Regina Hawkins, followed by Sabrina Tittle, and our final speaker will be Juliana Dickinton.
Good evening. My name is Regina Hawkins. I am here on behalf of my son, Austin Hawkins, who is a sophomore at Gamble Montessori High School and a participant in the STRIDES program. When I learned of the STRIDES program ending at the end of the 2014-2015 school year, I was at a loss for words. The students need their instructor to help them better understand complex questions or problems in simpler terms to help them become prepared for life after high school. There isn't just an instructor-student team. There's also the instructor-parent team. The STRIDES program enables the parent to contact the instructor to find out how the student is progressing or struggling with one call at any time. It's just not a professional job. When I receive calls in regards to my child about things that bother him, it becomes personal as well. It's about the whole well-being of the student. I'm here as a parent asking for you to put yourself in my position or any other parent's position with a student who benefits from the STRIDES program. If you were in our shoes, you'd be here voicing the same concerns. Ending this program could set students up for failure.
Thank you, Ms. Hawkins.
Yes, sir.
Exactly what is the issue other than him being in the STRIDES program?
My son has an IEP, and he went to Hughes. He couldn't understand Hughes's academics that they require. He was transitioned into the Children's Home of Cincinnati's partial hospitalization program. He successfully completed that, and trying to get him into a school that could help benefit his IEP. I actually met with Dr. Jameson, and he actually got my son into the last spot at Gamble. And I don't want to see my son quit school, because he said he would quit school if Gamble lost their STRIDES program. And that is something I take very, very seriously, because you need an education in this world to get anywhere.
Okay, if we could perhaps hear from the administration as to what...
I will certainly follow up with Gamble and also the Department of Student Services to see if they're closing units or moving units. I'm not sure.
So you're not aware of
this?
Well,
no.
Okay. And I see you've indicated, Ms. Hawkins, that you'd like a written response, so we will get back with you.
I thank you for your time and your attention in regards to this matter.
Thanks for bringing it to us.
Thank you.
Next, Sabrina Tittle, followed by Juliana Dickinton.
Actually, I'm here about the same program. Okay. My daughter has only been attending it for about a month now, and I see a dramatic difference in how much effort she puts into school. Just life, family. And like I said, she's only been in it for 4 weeks, if that. Okay, she's been into three different programs. She's been to St. Al's. She's been into regular public schooling, and I've even tried homeschooling. Up about 2 months ago, I felt like her best option was to drop out until we came upon the STRIDES program there. And I believe what helps a child to succeed in any kind of school programming is support from the parents and teachers with patience in the school environment. They have an excellent school environment. Everything's pretty calm around there. Best school I've seen. The teachers that's helping my child has done a great deal in a short period of time. When she comes home, she's happy, and when she wait a minute. My child is happy to go to school, and when she comes home, all she talks about is how good of a day she had, which she never did with any other programs. For the first time, I feel like she is going to succeed in a school. If this program is helping any child to succeed in Gamble, why remove it?
Thank you, Ms. Tittle.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dickinson?
May I have some information for you?
Certainly. She can take one and pass them down if that's easier. Thank you.
So good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Before I begin, I would like to apologize for my speech exceeding the recommended time. Since my husband is unable to join me tonight, he jokingly said that he would borrow me his time. Given the urgency surrounding this issue, I hope you will be in agreement with me that the extra time is warranted. 118 days ago, I stood at this very podium and expressed for the first time my concerns regarding the discriminatory enrollment policy with regards to Clark and Gamble Montessori. 105 is the number of days it took the Board of Education to formally respond. It took the board 105 days to respond with a memo which only outlined the prioritizing of children for enrollment in the Montessori high schools. What it did not do is acknowledge or address any of my expressed concerns. The first policy committee meeting that was scheduled to discuss my issue on October 27th was canceled. The reason given was because more time was needed to gather additional information. The second policy meeting scheduled to discuss my issue was on November 17th at 5 o'clock. It was also canceled, this time due to weather conditions. However, two meetings which were to follow immediately, one at 5:45 and the other at 7 o'clock, held. The third policy committee meeting did hold on December 12th. I was eager to listen to the committee and hear what additional information they were bringing to the table. Imagine my confusion when the topic is opened, yet there is silence. The committee had nothing to share. No research, no facts, no discussion on their behalf. The room was filled with nearly 30 parents who were supporting me. We were asked to speak, and we did so, and we did take advantage of that time. At the end of the meeting, our group was informed that our issue would be discussed just a few days later at an upcoming workshop, and we were encouraged to attend. Imagine my frustration and disappointment when, at the beginning of the workshop, we were told that not only would our concerns not be addressed that evening, but we would not have an opportunity to address the board either. I have asked in the past for the board to cite your authority. I am respectfully asking the board once again this evening, please cite your authority. What law grants you the right to make such a distinction between public and private children who live within the city limits? Why is such a distinction only made with regard to Clark and Gamble? Why don't Walnut, SCPA, and all the other Cincinnati public high schools prioritize students in the same manner, public over private? The burden of proof is on you. I have included the first form for you, and it states, according to the Ohio Department of Education, discrimination is defined as different treatment that makes a distinction of one person or a group of persons from others, either intentionally, by neglect, or by the actions or lack of actions from a program. There are laws in this country designed to protect the rights of our children, laws which require all children to be given equal access to public education. CPS has adopted an unwritten policy, an arbitrary rule, based on favoritism with regard to enrollment at Clark and Gamble Montessori. CPS Board Policy 5113.01, which is next, is the Schools of Choice and Magnet Intra-District Open Enrollment Program. However, it makes no mention of the criteria used to prioritize the children as explained in the memo I received from the board, which is on the back. In fact, CPS does not mention it anywhere on their website, no mention in the bylaws or policies, and even no mention in the high school guide, which was sent out earlier this year. On page 7, it asks, what do all CPS high schools have in common? The answer given is that all are open to any child living anywhere inside the Cincinnati Public School District. As I stand here before you, we all know that is not true. The only criterion listed is on page 21, and it states, Montessori experience is preferred for entry into Clark. That's it. No other criteria are listed. The Ohio State Board of Education's open enrollment and explanation, which is next, if you don't mind opening it up, on the first page, informing the public, it states, school districts are required to inform residents every year about intra and inter-district open enrollment options available to pupils. All communications used to inform parents, guardians, and students about the open enrollment options, and all internal documents, excuse me, forms used by the school district must accurately reflect the letter and spirit of the law. It continues to read under timelines. Timelines for participating in intra and inter-district open enrollment are to be made public. On the final page of this section, selecting applicants, it states, the method and criteria used for making the selection of applicants must be public information. A policy requiring different admission, enrollment, quotas, and eligibility is prohibited by law. A policy which discourages enrollment for some student and as a result leads to exclusion is prohibited by law. An unwritten policy, such as the memo I received, which prioritizes and favors public over private Montessori students, is prohibited by law. Every year in the state of Ohio, the superintendent in each school district must sign an inter and intra-district open enrollment checklist. I have included a copy. I was able to acquire both checklists, which were signed by Superintendent Mary Ronan last March. By signing this checklist, CPS is acknowledging compliance with the law, specifically Ohio Revised Code 3313.97, which is next in your file, as well as Ohio Administrative Code, Chapters 3301-48-01, if you take a look to the 3313.97 on the back, each school board shall provide information about the policy adopted under this section and the application procedures and deadlines to the parent of each student in the district and to the general public. (3301-4801). The policy adopted shall include student application and admitting procedures and records, a district-wide timeline for parental information, application process, and notification of acceptance, as well as criteria for prioritizing applications for participation in intra-district open enrollment. Nowhere are such procedures and criteria for prioritizing application posted within CPS's intra-district policy or website. This checklist is a contract requiring that CPS is in compliance and is adhering to these policies and laws. It states provisions the school district must adopt and specific criteria which is prohibited. By signing this checklist, CPS is confirming that the district's policy regarding intra-district open enrollment meets the provisions and the district is adhering to this policy. After reviewing this checklist and the noted laws, it has become overwhelmingly evident that CPS is in violation of said laws. If CPS chooses and continues to enroll students, as stated in the memo, and gives public Montessori students priority over private and district Montessori students, then CPS is knowingly and intentionally breaking the law. Next Tuesday is February 17th. I will be enrolling my son into Clark Montessori. I respectfully ask the board to follow the policy that is in place. Follow policy number 5113.01 as it is written online on CPS's website. Only then will all children within the CPS district truly have an equal enrollment opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dickinson. That's all for our hearing of the public. Does anyone have any kudos?
I have some kudos.
Board Member Nelms.
Some kudos. I'll be attempt to be brief. CPS and ABC's Foundation announced the Athletic Hall of Fame class for 2015. 14 outstanding alumni of CPS will be enshrined on April 16th of this year at the CPS Athletic Hall of Fame, which would take place at Paul Brown Stadium. And the list includes accomplishments ranging from football, basketball, baseball, swimming, diving, gymnastics, track and field. There's 4 posthumous inductees, and they would be Von Booker from Taft, Donna Burks, Western Hills, Courtney Coleman, and most of you had this in your handouts in your package, Deasia Grisby, Barbara Weinstein, Linda Miles, Bill Rodan, Bill Zimmer, Jim Engel, Fred Willis, and then Sid Friedman, Ed Jucker, Raul Legaley, and Tom Merritt. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Nelms. Any other kudos? All right, Ms. Bates, would you please present the retirements?
I have 2 retirements. First retirement is from our certificated personnel, Cynthia E. Davis, school social worker, and from our civil service personnel, Marion Settles, food service helper. We thank you for your service and wish you well in your retirement.
Ms. Bates. Next, we'll move on to our resolutions. For the first resolution, I'm going to ask our finance chair, Mr. Bolton, to please present the resolution for board consideration.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the opportunity to do this, and I know this is a great celebration for us all. Cincinnati Public Schools resolution to appoint Jennifer Wagner as Treasurer Chief Financial Officer for the Cincinnati City School District. Whereas Jennifer Wagner was appointed to the position of Interim Treasurer of the Cincinnati Board of Education effective January 1st, 2015, and whereas in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 3313.22, Jennifer Wagner is qualified and licensed to serve as Treasurer Chief Financial Officer of the Cincinnati Board of Education. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Cincinnati Board of Education appoints Jennifer Wagner as Treasurer, Chief Financial Officer of the Cincinnati Board of Education and issue a contract with an annual salary of $150,000 beginning February 10th, 2015 and ending July 31st, 2017. And be it further resolved that the President be authorized to execute an appropriate contract with Jennifer Wagner, which incorporates these and other terms and conditions of employment. I so submit as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Nelms. Any discussion or comments?
Again, congratulations. We know you're going to do a good job, and take me to lunch when you get a moment.
I'd be happy to.
All right.
Yeah, I think I would just like to add that I think, as Ms. Wagner knows, we're excited for her to take the kind of innovation and outside the box thinking, as well as culture building that we've seen in her role as the CIO to the Treasurer Department. So we're really excited to have you on board in this new role. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. You made a very difficult decision and search very easy for us, so we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Finally, Mrs. Wagner, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland-Dansby?
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman?
Aye.
Mr. Manera?
Aye.
Mr. Nelms? Aye. President Kuhns?
Aye. Congratulations.
Mrs. Wagner.
Thank you.
I need a motion for a 48-hour waiver for the next resolution.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Bolton. Is there a second?
Second.
And roll call, please, on the 48-hour waiver.
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland-Dansby?
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman?
Aye.
Mr. Manera?
Aye.
Mr. Nelms?
Aye.
President Kuhns?
Aye. As Student Achievement Committee Chair, Mrs. Bates, would you please present the revised resolution for board consideration?
Yes, with pleasure. I'd like to present the resolution for the contract renewal of Mary A. Ronan, Superintendent of the Cincinnati City School District. Whereas the Cincinnati Board of Education stated its intention to renew the contract of Mary A. Ronan, the Superintendent of the Cincinnati City School District. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the contract renewing the employment of Mary A. Ronan as the Superintendent of the Cincinnati City School District for a term commencing on August the 1st, 2015 and ending on December 31st, 2016 with a base annual salary of $198,000. And be it finally resolved that the Cincinnati Board of Education authorizes the President and Treasurer to execute the contract incorporating these and other terms and conditions of employment. I recommend this resolution to be adopted as printed.
Thank you, Mrs. Bates. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Bolton. Any discussion or comments?
I don't know how this is great. We got a team.
Yeah, I think we're very excited to have you guys both as a team. And so, Mrs. Ronan, you've been doing a wonderful job for the past 6 years, and we'll sure you continue that.
Yeah.
So, Mrs. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland?
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman?
Aye.
Mr. Manera?
Aye.
Mr. Nelms?
Aye.
President Kuhns?
Aye. Superintendent Ronan, do you have a report?
Actually, I do, and it is a video. Channel 19, the Fox Morning News, last Thursday, the Deputy Superintendent Laura Mitchell and I were invited to talk about the My Tomorrow. And we thought the interview went extremely well, so I'm going to ask Dion if he could bring it up. So this is the night for great videos. It aired at 8 o'clock in the morning.
A new initiative that school leaders are calling a bold vision for education. Expectations are not only high for the initiative and what it can do, expectations are high for students to do better and prepare for the future. Joining me this morning is Superintendent Mary Ronan and Deputy Superintendent Laura Mitchell. First of all, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome.
You're excited about this. You're calling it bold. Why?
Well, we're working on both ends with early literacy and also at the other end to make sure that our youngsters are prepared for college and career.
Well, in terms of literacy, you've been doing really well. You have a literacy guarantee, and it's been working really well with the third graders. Tell me about that.
Yes, in the state of Ohio, the governor has a third grade guarantee that if you don't pass the third grade reading test, you aren't promoted. So last year, 97% of our third graders were promoted. And we have 3,000 third graders in the district, so it was a big job.
I love that. Laura, how confident are you that this new BOLD program will work, and why do you feel that way?
Yeah, so I feel that it's definitely going to work because it's going to give our students a competitive edge in the world of work. And so we started this initiative, and it's called My Tomorrow.
My Tomorrow, okay.
My Tomorrow. It's My Tomorrow for the students and our future for the city of Cincinnati and the community. And so it started with our 7th and 8th grade students, and we really We've done our curriculum, made it very robust. We've added a lot of advanced placement courses to our curriculum, as well as dual enrollment at the upper levels, which will actually give our kids the opportunity to get college level credits while they're in high school.
Now, there's an advisory team, and I know we have information in our control room that I want to put up on your screen. Tell me about the advisory team and what is it designed to do?
Sure. So research shows that if students have a strong connection with a positive adult within the school, they are 30 times more likely to be successful in college and a career. And so there's an advisory session that takes place once a week for 45 to 60 minutes where teachers work with a small group of kids. They look at their student achievement data. They also really focus on some career goals and aspirations, and they develop a plan that will actually help them be prepared to launch into a career, whether it's college, military, job, or whatever they actually want to do once they leave our doors.
And Mary, you're nodding your head right there. I mean, when you talk about, when I was young, they said, just hit the books, hit the books, hit the books. The world is much more complicated now, especially for these young people, correct?
Exactly, and employers are looking for job skills, the ability to work in a team, plus, job etiquette, just being punctual, those kinds of things. So we want to make sure that our students have a competitive edge, because, we used to be competing with the suburban districts. Sure. Now we're competing with children in China and India.
And really, when it comes to doing well in the workplace or doing well in school, or even in sports, it's all about confidence. Do you think this new program does a lot to build a student's confidence across the board?
That's what we're hoping, that they'll have the technology skills, they'll know how to work in a team, they'll know public speaking, they'll have the writing skills. All of those are components that our children need to be competitive.
And you talk about technology, there's a new software component of this. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so we're using a platform, it's called Playbook, and it was actually developed in-house. And what it is it allows the students to log on each and every day, and it gives them information about their student achievement, how they're performing, and they can also get individualized plays. So it may say, I noticed that last week you didn't do very well in your algebra exam. Here are some things that you can do to improve, and it will gear them towards sites that they can go to for tutorials.
Now, we have a software that we want to pull up in our control room. I didn't know how to pronounce it, but the software began with an N. Do you guys have that in the control room? Is it Naviance software?
Naviance, yes.
So tell me about that in terms of the students and how they will react to this.
Yes. So Naviance allows the kids to do a lot of things. First of all, it can tell them what are their strengths in terms of surveys that they can take. It also really prepares them for college. So it can help track their progress towards graduation in terms of course credits, college information. It gives a wide range of college information about different schools, what they offer, majors that you might want to be interested in as you pursue a college job.
Mary, my last question is for you. You've been working in the education field for a long, long time.
A very long time.
When you talk about where you were in the beginning and what challenges you faced, and where you are today, what challenge you face, what's new? And how do you have to change the approach in terms of making sure students do well?
It seems like everything is new these days. We have new standards, we have new tests, we have a new report card, we have a new teacher evaluation system. It's hard to keep up sometimes. Sure. Things have really changed.
The same old way of doing things is not enough. Cincinnati Public doing something new and making sure that kids are educated. My Tomorrow initiative starting at CPS. Laura, Mary, always good talking with you both. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right, we have much more straight ahead.
Yeah, all right.
Fantastic. Congratulations on that spot. Do I have a motion to approve the revised recommendations of the superintendent?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Bates. Is there a second? Any discussion?
I'd like to bring attention to number 6 in the report. Receipt of a grant from GE Volunteers Foundation in the amount of $15,000 to Aiken High School for their, I knew she'd say that, for their Aiken GE Aviation Partnership. I think it's fantastic. I just really wanted to point it out to the public. That is a wonderful partnership that I know is doing some great things at Aiken, and who couldn't use $15,000 for their school?
GE has partnered with Aiken for almost 30 years.
Yes, yes.
Awesome. All right, seeing no other discussion, Mrs. Wagner, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland-Dansby?
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman?
Aye.
Mr. Manera?
Aye.
Mr. Nelms? Aye. President Kuhns?
Aye. Do I have a motion to approve the report of the treasurer?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Bates. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Dansby. Any discussion?
Just on numbers 1 and 2.
Small amount
of money, but just it's donation going to Friends of the School of Creative and Performing Arts. No longer exists.
Yeah.
It has been dissolved legally, so we probably need to just have a follow-up with PNC and Kroger about that.
Nice catch, Ms. Bolton.
Thank you. And then also number 7, just that's a follow-up to that remarkable anonymous gift from the beginning, and so that's the second and final gift, and thank goodness they came through for us.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Wagner, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Bates?
Aye.
Ms. Bolton?
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland-Dansby?
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman? Aye. Mr. Monero?
Aye.
Mr. Nelms?
Aye.
President Kuhns?
For inquiries and updates this evening, we have one, as you see printed. We've received correspondence from City Hall about the next ACES meeting. They have suggested a day and time, as you see printed, and it was noted that the Director of Trade and Development with the city would be present. So this is an opportunity for us to talk about what items we would want to see on the next ACES meeting agenda and what availability, if any, we have for that day and time.
Did they have suggestions as to why their Director of Trade and Development is going to be there? Did they have agenda items?
Those were the only words that I saw in the correspondence. Ms. Davis, I don't think there was any more to it than that, was there? Okay.
I mean, because I think there are agenda items we've been talking about for a while now we'd like to eventually discuss with them, right? So everything from partnering and figuring out how to have citywide Wi-Fi, since that would benefit our My Tomorrow initiative, we know it would benefit the city. We've talked about some stuff around the board evaluation revisions. And so maybe having that with some of the other land use issues we've talked about, since that board of evaluation revisions directly impacts how much money we get as a school district.
Valuations, I'm sorry. I heard evaluations.
Oh, no, they do not have anything to do with our evaluations.
I thought maybe we were going to take Joe's template and send it on to
send it to them. No, board of evaluation revisions. I think those are two of the items that I would like to talk with them about at some point.
Okay, good recommendations.
I think it is a carryover. I think he was supposed to speak a while back, but he's relatively brand new and didn't feel comfortable. I think the other piece was neighborhood development as to where they are and where their targeted areas might be, something like that, that might pertain to some of our planning. That's all I can remember.
Okay, so we've got a few items to suggest to add to the agenda. I'm sure Ms. Davis got those down. And how about the day and time? Do we have board members that can be available on March 17th?
Okay.
From 11 to 12:45?
Is that here or?
The location is yet to be determined.
I think it's their turn.
No, it's our turn.
It's our turn.
Our turn to host.
Darn.
We don't have to feed them. That's okay.
No, the parking.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, so we'll move forward and get back to Ms. Kamine about that.
I do have one other thing. When we met with ACES very early in the year, I want to say one of the first meetings, we were talking about our mobility issue within the district, and we're looking for some support from the city in that area. I don't know if you have any suggestions, Superintendent, or if you want to think about it. But while we're creating agenda items, if we can garner some support, I don't know what that looks like, but...
Well, we have spoken with Mr. Johnson, Greg Johnson from Metropolitan Housing to see if he could help us stabilize the mobility.
Okay. So I don't know if that's something for a later agenda or follow-up or what have you.
If we're going to throw out, I think shared services is one that we kind of keep circling back to. We know the city and CPS would always love to figure out how to save money, so shared services might be one to put back on the list.
Okay, so I've got about 5 items written down, and it might be too much for one meeting. So maybe maybe Ms. Davis could send those items to the administration and to board members, and we can give some thoughts about how we could clarify or prioritize those.
Great.
Is that okay? All right. Next, is there any other inquiries or updates? Are there any other? Glad my English teacher didn't hear that. Are there any assignments then?
Yes. There were several assignments that came out of the Student Achievement Committee, and they are board assignments to the Student Achievement Committee, and I'll let each of the committee members speak, but this came about because we're developing a work plan and realized that there were some big issues out there that we have not had been part of the conversation in, and one is the Bellwether program, and I asked that that be assigned to the Student Achievement Committee. And Mr. Manera, you have some assignments.
Yeah, we have some assignments that have come from different parts of the community. One of them was from our Facet committee, and they thought it would be best to direct it to our student achievement. And that was a report on math scores and initiatives that we have in the district. We don't want to get to the point that we are doing the same thing that we're doing with our reading. So we want to have an understanding of where we are, what is being done, if we're on the right track, or if this is something that we should find an intervention for. And then the other one is report on the social studies credit. I believe right now is at 3 hours, and we just want to get an understanding on what is the component on that at the Student Achievement Committee.
And
yes,
Elisa?
Yes. So another one we wanted to assign to the Student Achievement Committee was preschool expansion, and how can we expand the number of preschool seats we offer in CPS. I think it's something we've been talking about kind of tangentially in all of our committees, and I think we wanted to buckle down, assign it to Student Achievement Committee, and figure out how to move forward there. And the other one was one that we had made mention of last year, but would like to make an official assignment to Student Achievement to talk with our public affairs team and potentially some other internal teams of working with our students to tell their own stories. So we know if you don't tell your own story, someone else is going to tell it for you, and we want to empower our students to tell their own stories by potentially partnering with our local newspapers and having our kids write op-eds. So whether it's the Herald or the Enquirer or City Beat, there's some really interesting reporting going on about our communities. So the girls in Lower Price Hill who were profiled, a number of students in the turning 16 in Cincinnati. Those are all stories written about our kids. We'd love our kids to be able to tell their own stories, and this has happened in other communities, and we'd love to bring it here. We also know expository writing is part of the Common Core ELA standards for grade 6 and above, so we thought that's why it tied into student achievement.
You'll have no objections from me. Ms. Bolton?
Just, I'm not sure how to word this, but the bullying piece continues to be an issue, obviously not only because of our speaker tonight, but again at a listening session on Saturday, it was raised again by students in a discussion that was kind of fascinating and revealing. I'm not interested in the training, because I know as a district we train and retrain and train about the bullying. We have outside folks come in, inside folks, but I just, to direct the administration to have a discussion, and you probably always do, but have a discussion that is more of an assessment as to where we really are regarding bullying, literally building by building. And also I know it's an issue that's being addressed by the transportation people as well, you know, on to and from school. But I just a dialogue, I don't even know that you need to share it with us, but that you have some kind of discussion about this. It seems to be pervasive still.
Mr. Nelms, I believe you had an assignment.
Well, to Juliana's point, this continues open enrollment for Montessori continues to be an ongoing issue. And with her presentation tonight and the compelling information, investigative information we had, I don't know if it would be appropriate to have policy relook at what was presented, and then see what we can do from a legal perspective, as well as if there's any suggestions or recommendations, which I don't have at this time, but I think just out of courtesy.
Yeah, I think at this point it might be our legal team that we need to address the legal issues.
Well,
Mr. Manera?
I want to piggyback on that. I think the enrollment piece is something that we've heard last year over and over, and we just heard it also from our teachers. So as we move along our process of trying to find high quality seats and high demand seats, we need to resolve our enrollment issues that continue to come. I think we owe it to our public to give it the value that it deserves and not have to wait almost 200 days for a reply. I think we have a board that's willing. We just got to be more proactive on it. So I don't know if it is legal. I don't know if it's policy. I don't know if it's HR, or I don't know if this is something that the board needs to discuss. But in some of the conversations we have had, we have heard that the board needs to make the right decision for our students, for our teachers, and our parents. So I just urge that we do take some urgency on this issue and try to resolve it.
Yeah, I'd like to make it a little more formal than that, and let's plan as a full board sometime to discuss the legal issues with our legal team. Because if the policy is out of compliance, that's a major issue. And I think we can couple that conversation with following up from what we heard from our teachers related to enrolling their students. And, really try to figure out how we prioritize the enrollment, and if some policy needs to be adjusted, then it does. But I think, need to have a full conversation. I'm not a part of student achievement, but I would very much like to help figure out
policy.
The issue. I'm sorry, policy.
But I also think, though, go ahead.
I'm not on policy.
I think but in the past, I mean, the board doesn't determine who goes to what school. Our policies are broad policies, and they're we've never done this before. To me, that's micromanagement. That's more process and procedure. And we may, ask the superintendent to modify that based on, the will of the board, but for us to decide who goes to what school is not, I'm not willing to go there.
And maybe you misunderstood, because I didn't say decide who goes to what school. I said take a look at the policy, and, if
I think the policy is broad enough, and it's fine. It's not policy. It's not procedure.
I don't feel particularly comfortable with it, so if you don't want to be a part of the conversation, that's fine. I'm just suggesting that we collectively have a conversation with the administration, if it's for understanding even. But I think to simply ignore it at this point is not beneficial to the public.
I think we, as Ms. Hoffman said, we need a legal look at it.
I said the same thing. I agree.
And
the policy is broad enough to encompass, all of our schools. I don't think that that's faulty. I don't know that I want to get that specific. And
I think backing up to what Board Member Manera was saying as well, I think though we have I think if we take each of these constituencies who comes to us at once, we're just constantly putting our finger in a dike instead of solving our broader problem of we have more people who want access to our schools than we have seats for. And so I think we know we have the private Montessori parents who want to have access. We know we have out-of-district teachers who want to have access. We know we have people who can't camp out who want to have access. So I think having a whole conversation about how we broaden access for all of those groups is I think the most productive conversation to have. I think as part of that, we need to understand what are the legal implications, what has our policy been in the past, what is it now, what could it be moving forward. But I know as the policy committee, we spent a lot of meetings talking about the Montessori one, between meeting with our legal team and getting a legal perspective on it, and meeting with folks within the administration, quite a few folks in the administration who had the background and experience so that we could respond via the memo that we obviously shared with everybody. So, we have been working our way through issues as they come to us, and now I think we need to figure out how do we solve this problem as a whole.
Ms. Bolton.
Yeah, I think that that's part of the issue, being comprehensive and strategic about this. I think we might even find out that some of the concerns tonight about the Strides unit might be a space issue at Gamble, because Gamble indeed is, worried about the increase of interest in them as they grow, and it goes back to the space and the staffing and the budget or whatever, that they can provide more seats in Montessori. So all of this is interrelated and interconnected and needs a comprehensive, not a piecemeal, the multiple pieces to this puzzle. And if we miss one, we might mess up the whole puzzle. So, kudos to this discussion tonight.
Yeah, I'll make a suggestion then. We can assign to our legal counsel that you review the file given to us by Ms. Dickinson, make sure we're in compliance with the law, and then as a follow-up to the myriad of other enrollment issues, we'll make sure that's a part of our continuing quality seats discussion. So any other assignments? Fantastic. Having no other business come before the board, I declare the meeting adjourned.
Eve. Hey, Eve. You remember I'm away on Wednesday.
Yeah, and Ericka is going to be there, so we'll have a quorum.
Yeah, because I'm out of town.
What's going on?
I'm out of town, so we want to make sure that you were there. Yeah, even though we said, yeah, we hope so. I know, that's just too much for one day and working, and yeah. No, I agree. Sorry you have to do that.
I heard February 17th.
Oh, I was going to say, it's St. Patrick's Day. Are we going to have green beer? Oh, yeah.
Jim, congratulations.
Oh,